Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I wanted to talk about something here that was actually a question in one of my Q&As, but I do want to go into it a lot more in depth here, and that is, I really don't want Rick Grimes to be in the finale of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 4, and I'll go into exactly why here, but I know that it is something that I think a lot of people are really looking forward to, like, could he be there in the finale? But I want to go into my reasons as to why I don't want that to happen, and why I would prefer an actual, reunion with all of the characters in a different spin-off. I mean, it would be really cool if it was The Walking Dead Season 12, but I don't think we're going to get that. So definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. And also, I will be live on Twitch later on playing Dead by Daylight, so if you haven't followed me on Twitch, definitely go and do so. My channel name is Appetite for the Dead. I'll be live there later on today playing some Dead by Daylight, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm actually editing a video right now for one of the first streams that I did for Dead by Daylight, playing as the new Walking Dead characters on there. I think it's with Daryl, actually. So I will be uploading some Dead by Daylight content as well, because it's just a lot of fun to play, and honestly, playing as the Walking Dead characters and having Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus actually voice the characters is just really incredible. But yeah, let's get into what I wanted to talk about here. So I really don't want Rick Grimes to be in the finale of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon Season 4. And it was something, again, I was asked the other day in a Q&A, and, I talked about it a little bit there. But the thing that's kind of exciting about it is, obviously to see Rick and Daryl together again would be really incredible. I think that to have the characters just in a scene together would be really amazing to see. But I think it would just be a wasted scene if it was just something that was a couple of minutes and it was Rick and Daryl talking. It was a really short scene about whatever, and they're just very happy. They reunited, and that's the end, right? Daryl found Rick. I think it would be a perfect ending if this whole trip of Daryl going to Europe and everything was all about him trying to find Rick. They haven't really said that. That's the thing. When Daryl was out there and he eventually ended up in France and all that, yeah, he was out there looking for Rick, but it wasn't like they made a point of that, right? It was just he ended up in trouble or whatever. It wasn't the point of why he was in France or the story of everything. It hasn't been the point of the show. So I don't think you can make that argument overall. I think if you made the argument to begin with and he's mentioned Rick and he really wants to find him and all that, then it would make a lot more sense for the finale of the series here to end with him actually finding him, right? But this is my thing about it. So this is why I don't think it would work. So Rick and Daryl's reunion scene, I think, should mean a lot more and actually have a lot more of a story. And it's because of what Norman Reedus said recently about working with Andrew Lincoln and the scene in season 9 where, Daryl and Rick were both in the hole and trying to survive and all that. And they really worked on that. And it was again, I'll talk about that scene in a second, but I think you want another scene like that with the characters. I think you want to see Norman Reedus and Andrew Lincoln actually working together in a scene, just with a story that really, really matters for everyone to watch, and not just something like the ending of The Ones Who Live. Because the ending of The Ones Who Live, it works because Judith and RJ never really had a big part of really any story. Judith, I guess, a little bit more in season 9 and a little bit in season 10, but they're characters that are just kind of there, right? They're not really a part of any bigger stories, or really haven't been. So I think that's why that scene works, is because it's Rick and Michonne reuniting with their kids, and it's just oh, that's really awesome. And they're actually there, and it's a really emotional scene and everything, and it was really incredible to see. But it's one of those things that, again, I still think I wanted more from the scene for sure, but it's not like Rick is seeing Michonne. Imagine if The Ones Who Live ended with Rick seeing Michonne there, and it was just a 2-minute scene, and that was it. That's it. You want more from that. You don't want it to just be a little scene like that. And so I think with The Ones Who Live, it works because it's Judith and RJ, and it's not like they're really big characters. I know they are big characters, but they haven't had, a big story at all in The Walking Dead. So I think it works in that sense because it's sort of what we're used to, right? And you're more following Rick and Michonne's story, and it was just a way to sort of, end that. I definitely wanted more from that. I think that they could have reunited in Alexandria or just anywhere else in a field. I think there could have been a lot more done there, but, just in terms of what we got there, with how open-ended it literally was, I think that, for Daryl to get back and then he sees Rick and then that's the ending, I think that is something that, and if that was the end, of their story, they reunited and that was it, that would be frustrating for me, because I really want an epic story for these two characters. I want something the scene in season 9 where Rick and Daryl got stuck in that hole and they're trying to get out and the walkers were there and stuff. To me, that was such an emotional scene because the characters were really just they did not like each other. Well, I shouldn't say they didn't like each other. They just disagreed a lot, right? And it just really built up to a moment like that where Daryl was well, no, I want to kill Negan. He shouldn't be alive because of this and that, and with Glenn and everything. And Rick was just well, this and that about Carl. And it just got really emotional. it built up. And like when it got to the point where like one of them could die and it seemed like Daryl was going to die or whatever, like Rick was saying like, brother, you know, it's such an emotional scene. It's such an epic scene with the characters that like they really put a lot of time and effort there. And it's so crazy to think that like that was one of the last times they really ever saw each other, like when both the characters knew they were there. Because I know Daryl saw Rick on the bridge, but Rick, like, he didn't really know what he was seeing. Like, yes, he thought maybe he was seeing them, but like he was hallucinating so much, like he was really out of it. So he had no idea if that was actually Daryl. Like, I really, like, that's the one thing about The Ones Who Live that I think, you know, I think they failed in that sense, where they never talked about the explosion, like on the bridge. Like, I feel like they should have talked about that, where Rick was like, I don't remember really a lot happening. Like, it was just this and that. And then I just woke up and I was here. Like, there was no mention of what happened there with Rick getting to the CRM. And I think that's one thing that I really would like to see. And they could still do that. Like, Rick still has to reunite with a lot of characters. And I think if he sees Daryl, he can talk about that. I think it would be really incredible to see and to have, because I mean, Rick was really out of it. And I get it, you know, like 10 years basically went by. It was a very long time that Rick was stuck there, right? So in that sense, you know, things have changed a lot. He's in a totally different mindset. He's not thinking about the past that much. That was so long ago, right? So I get it in that sense, but I just think that it makes sense to bring up because, I mean, we're watching, right? Like, we remember all of that. So that's what I want. And that's what I mean. So for Daryl to just see Rick at the very end of, you know, The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon season 4, and like, if that was the end, it would just be disappointing. It would just be like, wow, that was it. And for some, you know, maybe it is fine, because I know like the ending of The Ones Who Live, like, you know, there's a lot that really love that scene. Like, it was just perfect, right? And I do really like the scene as well. Like, it's not like a bad scene or anything like that. I do like the scene. It's just, there was a lot more specifics with the scene where I'm like, you could have given us a lot more. I think there was a reason for it, because they do want to tell more stories. And so they just kind of wanted to leave it more open-ended, where it's like they reunited with their family and they're in a field, and we're not going to say where they're going or anything like that, or any specifics, because another story we can just sort of, you know, do whatever we want with at that point. I think that's the thing about that ending that is a little bit more frustrating, is like, you want some sort of like a better conclusion there, but it was still nice to see. Anyways, my point is, when it comes to the ending here of season 4, that is just something that I really don't want to happen. What I would like to see happen, honestly, is, first of all, I do want an epic scene where they're trying to survive. I think that that's always been one of the things with those two characters, is that like, they're really good at surviving, but when they're in situations where they can't survive or it's really hard, like, it makes it just so incredible, especially when things are very emotional, when it's stuff about Carl, especially, because I feel like everyone really loves Carl at this point. And like, I know back in the day, people didn't like Carl, because I mean, that just seems to be a thing. I feel like with kid characters on the show, it's just like, you know, they're always so frustrating to watch because they'll want to do this or that, right? Because they don't really understand how to survive and whatever. So I know a lot of people get really upset with characters like Carl, right? But I think that at this point here, a lot of people want Carl, or wish that Carl was still alive. And I think that's the one thing that you can bring up, right? Like, bring up Carl a lot. Like, that was one of the best scenes in The Ones Who Live, when Michonne got I guess all those drawings or whatever of Carl done on that phone. Like, that was incredible, because Rick was saying like he can't really remember his face or this and that, and then he sees that picture. Like, that was just like, again, it's stuff like that. Those are the things that are just so incredible. And I want something like that with Rick and Daryl, because they've had so many iconic scenes throughout the years. You need a moment like that again, right? And I just think it would be really cool to have that. Like, just have those really just emotional scenes between Rick and Daryl. And also, there should be a lot of unexpected stuff. Like that was one of the things that I really liked about The Ones Who Live, was I was not expecting Rick and Michonne to be like, you know, not liking each other, basically. Like, they got into a lot of fights, right? Like, throughout a lot of that series, they just really, like, Rick wanted her to go, and, you know, Michonne was getting frustrated with him. And it was just like, I like those type of scenes like that. Like, that is how you build up the characters and you make things really interesting, right? So I want to see a lot more of that, I think, with Rick and Daryl. Like, unexpected stuff where it's like, oh wow, like, they're actually arguing here, like, they're not getting along, you know, and you expect everything to be all good and happy, but like, maybe it's not, for whatever the story is, right? And that would be really cool to see, I think. And that's why I think you have to have Negan a part of the story, because I feel like that is something that would be really exciting to do. I know it's going back to what the story was in season 9, but that wasn't finished yet. And I think that there could be a resolution to that. You could have, you know, maybe they're at odds, this and that, and then Rick, you know, talks with Negan, and maybe like Daryl is there as well. Like all three of them are in a room, and they could do that scene from the comics finally where the Whisperers are everywhere. Like you don't have the Whisperers there, obviously, but maybe it's a bunch of walkers and stuff, and they're trapped in a house, and it's just them three, and they all got to talk about everything. And it's just like this crazy emotional thing. You know, Carl gets brought up, Glenn, everything, but then they come out of it, and there's like a resolution there. That is something that would be really incredible to see. And I think you could really do so much there. And it would be one of the best scenes with those characters in a really, really long time. So that's what I want. I want more of that because there's still storylines from The Walking Dead season 9 that have not been wrapped up yet. There was stuff that was introduced, like just different, ways that they both viewed, life and like the apocalypse that I'm like, well, it's been a long time since then. Are they still viewing things the same? Like, does Rick still view it like this? Does Negan still view things like this, right? So it would be cool to have them talking about stuff again. And also just getting a scene maybe where Daryl is having a hard time trying to survive. Like, that was really cool. Because if you remember in season 2 of The Walking Dead, he was like almost dying there, right? So going back to some basic survival stuff, that would be really cool to see. And I think that it would be really appreciated from a lot of us, a lot of us that are watching right now because we want to see them reunite. Like, we want an epic story. We don't want it to be a really fast, like 2-minute scene. Like, really, that was it? Like, we wanted like, a bigger story here. There would be a lot of disappointment. So I'm gonna leave it here, though. I just really wanted to talk about this because obviously, like, now that we know that the finale is, gonna be, I guess, at the end of season 4, it's like a lot of questions are gonna be brought up about that. And I'm sure we'll be talking about that a lot. Like, does Rick show up there? A lot of, I guess, watching season 4, going, week to week, every episode, everyone's going to be like, is Rick going to show up at the end? And I just, like, if he shows up, cool, but like, I don't want that to be the end for Rick and Daryl. I want one final story, just like we got with Michonne. Like, I really do. I think for Rick and Daryl, it matters that much. Like, there's a lot of people who want to see that story. Like, for AMC to want to do another show, like, if you want a show that's going to be very successful, that show's going to be very successful. Like, it's really that simple. So, I hope that we do get it. But anyways, I'm going to leave it here, though. Definitely post our thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.